Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Mayor Mike, and we're talking point today with Nick Hylla, who is the Executive Director of the Midwest Renewable Energy Association out in Amherst. You guys have the Energy Fair, and you do all sorts of really cool things with renewable energy. So Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what the Midwest Renewable Energy Association is, what they do, how you got started, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit organization. We were incorporated in Wisconsin in 1990. We moved to our current site, which is just outside of Stevens Point in Custer, about 20 years ago. And we grew, the MREA started as kind of a community response actually to the first Gulf War. A number of people organized under the idea of creating more domestic energy sources and, stopping the quote unquote endless war for oil. And so they really organized around this idea of renewable energy domestic. In Wisconsin, we don't have any coal, we don't have natural gas, so we import everything. And so, 30 years ago, or 33 years ago now, in 1990, solar was, nobody was buying solar because of the cost advantages. And so they responded to a national call to action, organized the first public event called the Energy Fair. 3,000 people showed up. And here we are 33 years later still doing it. Obviously the organization has changed a lot over that time because now solar and wind are the cheapest electrons in the utility system. Homes and businesses have access to all kinds of energy production and management technologies to provide continuous power and reduce electricity bills. And so we've always, in our vision, our role as an organization has always been, how can we work with business partners and others to do things that aren't yet profitable but should be mainstreamed. And so that started with kind of like solar and wind, and then electric vehicles and energy storage. And so we maintain a professionally accredited training program. We train over 600 people a year. We have a demonstration campus, modern energy storage technology center. We're building a big bifacial solar pavilion, which you'll see if you come to the Energy Fair today. Training labs, energy efficiency, and then we do a lot of community organizing. We've helped communities in central Wisconsin kind of prepare for solar development through SolSmart. You were part of that. Work with Portage County, Wisconsin Rapids, Amherst, Plover. Across the state, over 20 jurisdictions worked with us to help align to some standards to basically facilitate solar energy adoption and also kind of prepare for some of these large-scale solar facilities that we're seeing. We have one now in Portage County. And organized solar group purchase programs with your support, and so worked with homes and businesses to bulk purchase solar energy systems. And then, as you mentioned, we host this largest renewable energy education event in the country every third weekend in June. So this is coming up.
So you mentioned, so I'm familiar with MREA, but I want to get more involved and let people know what it is exactly that you do out there. So the facility is open to the public, right?
Yeah.
You get to go out there. Where are you located exactly?
Yeah, so we're about 8 miles east of Stevens Point, just out off of Highway 10 in Custer. Mm-hmm. And we have a beautiful 40-acre campus, rolling, beautiful central Wisconsin rolling hills, big farm fields. And so anywhere between 12 and 15,000 people will come out over the weekend. We'll have 200 exhibits. I think 250 presentations throughout the weekend, keynotes, beer, bands, a bunch of family activities, and really it's, this year is particularly interesting because the federal government through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act is now set to spend more on energy infrastructure in the United States over the next decade than the previous 30 years. And as one of the major differences in the previous 30 years is much of that investment is focused on meters connected to buildings. So, historically the grid has developed. We build a few large machines out in the countryside and wires to move electricity to power, a bunch of little machines. Mm-hmm. And now we're putting the energy production right at the source of the use, and which is a tremendous investment opportunity, jobs opportunity, long-term bill reduction for homes and businesses. And so we've really geared up A lot of the Energy Fair speakers and resources and exhibitors and professional training that occurs there to really help people understand what the opportunities are. And then we also host a large electric vehicle show. So every major auto manufacturer and a bunch of new auto manufacturers have committed to electric vehicles. So we'll have hundreds of vehicles there, and we'll be charging. What's one of the big challenges with us is charging all those vehicles all weekend. So we have a lot of solar on site to help do that. And so if people are interested in electric vehicles, every make and model from the Rivians that are made in Illinois to Tesla, everything will be there.
Okay. No, it's nice, because when I was in grade school, boy, if you believed what the teachers said and what we talked about then, the energy crisis was alive and well. I mean, the gas lines are something that I remember.
Yeah.
And with the way the world is today, I think it's really important, and people are starting to recognize the importance or the problems being dependent on something or somewhere else for your energy. And I think that's really kind of fueled the movement, no pun intended, for these types of advancements here in the United States. I often say, and I don't remember where I heard it from, but it's a great line, that the cheapest unit of energy is the one you don't use.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first part of that is reducing the amount of energy you need. And then the second one would be, where can you find the cheapest source of that energy? And boy, the sun is out almost every day. Wisconsin may be debatable.
Yeah, that's a tough in the
but
wintertime.
Yeah, wind. And one other thing that we take for granted here in Wisconsin is the waterways. We have hydroelectric electricity and opportunities to do that. And MREA helps bring that awareness. Now, you mentioned you do a lot of trainings and certifications.
Yeah.
These are open to the public. What sorts of things could I take a class on at MREA?
Yeah, so I think the context is important. One of the major public policy pushes at federal level and state level is electrification. Electricity is the highest form of energy that we use. It's transferable. If you think about the way the economy is developing, everything's developing electric. And now with electrified transportation, we're moving all of that historically containered fuel, or the plan is to start transitioning that into the grid. So we are growing, like I said, the federal government has invested billions of dollars in this through programs over the next 10 years. And before any of this happened, we already were facing a national electrician shortage. So the biggest limiting factor in kind of this repowering of America is labor. And so across the board, if you can imagine, there are really two elements that are really important to kind of transitioning to a cleaner and more electrified economy. The first is transmission. You were kind of talking about solar and wind. I think the idea of our transmission system is 40 years old and needs modernization. And so the idea of connecting the country to access cheap wind from the Plain States and cheap solar from the Southwest, and all of the natural gas and nuclear energy and hydroelectric energy, and have a nationwide grid set that really supports these intermittent renewables is probably one of the more cost-effective things that we can do. The most cost-effective thing is energy efficiency. And what you'll see in the kind of national political narrative, we tend to be polarized around energy issues.
Polarized.
Yeah.
A lot of puns here, right?
Is that somehow renewables or efficiency are competing like we are against domestic natural gas. The reality is that we can't continue to use the amount of energy that we're using without efficiency and on-site electricity. Like the ability to make the distribution system more smart. The grid has operated under one parameter since its first days, which is supply must equal demand or failures occur. And so we've always overbuilt supply, which we pay for as ratepayers, right? The private investors build it, we pay them back plus interest over time. It's a protected rate of return, so they always want to build more. So the idea for us is if we had a smarter distribution system and better energy management, we'd have to build less. And then our rates would be cheaper. And so it's not really a competition, it's a necessity. Efficiency is a necessity for us unless we want to continue to be begging and bribing dictators to pump more oil to keep oil prices low. We need, and you can see what's happening in Europe right now. And so for us, we don't necessarily play in those large policy contexts. When it comes to workforce, we see the trend and the data. And so we work actually with technical and community colleges all throughout the Midwest to help them lift up their solar and energy storage training programs. We offer certification in solar technician training, and we're part of a national team to develop a certification program and training for energy storage technicians. And so we have, our suite of training is from very basic stuff. So if you're an architect or a real estate agent or a lender and you want to know what are these technologies and how are they thought about when it comes to return on investment, we have classes for that. And if you want to maintain an electrician certification or a solar installer certification, we have courses for that.
Okay. Do you have anything for me?
Yeah.
John Smith, who just wants to learn a little bit more about PV and alternative energies for running my residential facility.
Yeah, so we do solar group purchase programs, as you know. The city has been a supporter of that. We're not doing one this year. We're kind of taking a break. So
I want to expound on that a little bit, sorry, just for a second, because people may not understand what that means. And what that means really is that we get a lot of people together to say, hey, we will help promote you if you can guarantee us a reasonable installation rate. So we solicit bids from solar energy installers, and whoever gives us the best deal for what we want, you are the preferred provider.
Yeah.
And that's really a benefit for the residents and businesses of our different communities, because now I know that if I want to put solar on my house and I have, 1,000 square feet of roof space to use, I know that I can go to that preferred provider. There's a pre-negotiated installation cost, and I know exactly what my cost is going to be up front, and I can guarantee you it's going to be better than me going off on my own.
Yeah,
and it also, lots of people took advantage
and then
of it.
we also negotiate with the contractor a discount price. So like the more people that buy, the bigger the discount. So that helps with the economies of scale. So, and it also, for the contractor, these programs are nice because one of the challenges is labor. So being able to fill a work schedule and have a year's worth of work is very good to help attract and retain labor. And so, we do those programs. And as part of that, we do public education sessions called Solar Power Hours, which really help, what our role is, if you think about, for us, we aren't an advocacy organization per se. We're an implementation organization. We don't lobby at the state capitol or anything like that. But what we do is help policies get implemented in a way that provide the most benefit to homes, businesses, and communities. And so we don't want people getting a rooftop solar system or an energy storage system if it's not right for them, because upset customers do not make more customers. Right. Happy customers make more customers. And things like solar and electric vehicles and energy storage, they actually are a referral-based industry. They are adopted through proximity and affinity. Like if your neighbor gets one and you're out mowing the grass and you're like, hey, how's that going? You're like, oh, I love it. My energy bill was really, Or if they're like, this thing's a piece of junk and I'd never do it, there's a difference there. And so what we do in these solar power hours is we help people, what we say, right-size their expectations. And really think about not only will it work for your house, but will it perform financially for you in a way that makes sense for you, whether you're diversifying your investments or you're trying to hedge against future price increases, or you want to make sure that you have power when the power goes out so all the meat in your freezer doesn't spoil. And so that's what we do. So your question was stuff for you. And then at the MREA, we have an online training platform and in person, but in online there's a basic PV and PV site assessment class. So for example, working at the city, it is a advantage for the city to know, okay, how do these systems operate? What are their requirements? How do they perform in our location over the year? What's the financial return on investment? What are the warranties that are associated, insurance issues? And so that's 16 hours of online training that I think anybody that's, right now, one of the things that happened in the Inflation Reduction Act is before the Inflation Reduction Act passed, for-profit customers were getting a 30% discount on their solar energy installation prices, which means that for you, it's a 30% bump up because you don't pay taxes. You didn't get that 30% tax credit. Now what's happening is basically they built off of this kind of like direct pay child tax credit, and now there's a direct pay tax credit for public institutions and nonprofits that apply to municipalities. So for example, say you were to put a $100,000 solar electric system on the police department, you'd get a $30,000 direct pay tax credit. Actually, in Stevens Point, you get $40,000 because Stevens Point is a designated energy district, which gets an extra 10% tax credit bump. And so we have classes that help explain, all of that. And so one of the interesting things is the Inflation Reduction Act not only locked in these tax benefits for a decade, but they spread them across. Now they apply to solar and energy storage and air source heat pumps and electrical service upgrades and energy efficiency and electric vehicles. And so, for a city or for any public school, any home or business, understanding the basics will help you go to the market and get the best deal.
Absolutely, and I know MREA helps a lot with that.
Yeah.
So if people have questions and maybe want to investigate things a little bit further, specifically with just MREA, where can they reach you?
Well, I think the best thing to do is come to Energy Fair.
Okay.
Because what happens there is we have, like I said, over 200 workshops all throughout the day that range from any energy question that you could possibly ask. Like here, I'll just give you some bookends. We'll have workshops at the Energy Fair on electric vehicles, how to think about an electric vehicle as a consumer, your options for charging at home, cost over a lifetime. And then one of my, I think as far as a peace advocate and somebody that everybody in Stevens Point should hear from, we have a keynote from Trita Parsi, and he's an Iranian that lives in the United States and really understands the dynamics between Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, and has been negotiating and was part of the Iran nuclear deal there, and really follows that. And he'll talk kind of about what are the geopolitics of oil and how does it affect the United States, and where are we at in kind of this post, second Iraq war and pulling out of Afghanistan and the tensions around Russia, and so he'll talk about the global geopolitics of energy in a way that I think would probably surprise and intrigue a lot of people. So, from the very basics of home energy efficiency to air source heat pumps to larger scale conversations about federal policy and state policy and global geopolitics, we have an incredible lineup that I think will impress anybody that comes this year.
You do, and I can attest to that personally because I go there and there's always classes that I want to sit in on, mostly because of my own personal curiosity, but sometimes it helps, with running a city or even running my household. As I said, the cheapest unit is the one you don't use. So
yep.
If you're thinking about this, the first thing you should be doing is reducing your consumption overall.
Yep.
Because if you go in with everything that you're running now and you rate or get your solar system built, you're probably going to be oversized.
Right.
Reduce it as much as you can comfortably, and that gives you a better baseline to start out on.
Yeah.
And you can learn how to do that at the Energy Fair. So let's go back to the Energy Fair. When is it this year?
Yeah, so it's June, I want to get this right, I think it's June 23rd to the 25th, Friday the 23rd till Sunday the 25th. We start on Thursday night with our networking dinner, so if you're a member or an exhibitor, we have our first opening dinner, and then it starts Friday morning at 9. And then I have interviewed people over the last 6 months from all over the Midwest about energy issues after the passage of this federal legislation. So throughout the event, we'll have those people in person in our Rise Up Live events, and then we'll have a panel for them throughout the week. There'll be workshops. What else do we have? We have the car demos, we have professional workshops for energy professionals all weekend, keynote speakers from Amy Goodman, longtime host of Democracy Now!, independent news media, another keynote about kind of the value of public institutions by Eric Conway. He wrote a book with Naomi Oreskes called The Merchants of Doubt that looked at how the energy industry has funded research against clean energy and climate change for the past 30 years, and now they have a new book out. They both were at Harvard. They have a new book out looking at this kind of like anti-government campaign and this campaign for free markets and how that's kind of placed us. And then, like I said, a keynote about global energy geopolitics from Tree to Parsi. We have a 5K run walk on Sunday morning, a Rise Up and Race. It's our first ever. We have Central Waters will be out there all weekend. We'll have food. We'll have a community dinner Friday night. And it will be a Hmong dinner catered by a group that's been working out of Farm Shed, and they're going to do like elevated Hmong food. So we'll have local, and then so there's we'll have a children's area all throughout the weekend. Roof demos for how solar installations are installed. Like I said, we just built a new solar pavilion, so we'll have a beautiful picnic area out there. It's going to be a great event, so the 23rd to the 25th.
Yeah, and it's really great because you actually at MREA have installations all over the property for wind and solar, so you can get an idea of what this could or could not look like on your property. But I have to add too, while there's all this great training, a lot of interaction, demos, and the ability to kind of see what it's all about, you've got tons of other vendors there too. So I wouldn't. It's not like a flea market, but there are people there who are willing to talk to you about what your needs might be, or maybe give you some new ideas.
Absolutely.
There is a let's call it a used section, or like a garage sale type section.
Yeah.
The reason I remember this is because they've got lots of cool stuff there that isn't used by them anymore.
Right.
But it's still very usable. And I bought a solar panel many years ago because it was much cheaper than buying a new one. And I hooked it up to an aeration system on a pond that we have to keep our fish alive in the winter.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It saved me some money. So there's all sorts of cool things there. And then the food and entertainment and networking.
Bands. We haven't talked about all the bands that are
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing to touch on is you also get to see innovative things that other people have done. There was one guy there who was making his own alcohol to fuel his lawnmower.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't go buy vodka from the liquor store and run into my lawnmower, but if you are able to, and it's legal, you are legally eligible to do this, to make your own fuel for your lawnmower, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's any cleaner, but it's a whole lot cheaper.
Well, the thing that attracted me to the MREA, I started as a volunteer at the fair. I went to grad school here in Stevens Point, and someone told me about the energy fair, and I went out there and volunteered. And the thing that attracted me was two things. The first is the MREA's commitment to demonstration. It's in our mission. Lots of people are out there with all these ideas and advocating for whatever, and the MREA is like, show it to me, do it. And that whole do-it-yourself spirit and that kind of like tinkering and research, it bounds the conversation in a way that's really practical. And we've had all kinds of stuff out there, like people building their own steam engines and like solar cookers, and we encourage that. This idea of innovation. I mean, I think one of our keynotes recently was J.B. Straubel, who was the chief technology officer of Tesla. Now everybody thinks Tesla is Elon Musk. Well, Elon Musk funded it, but J.B. Straubel's from Wisconsin. He grew up next to a dump where they would basically bring old golf carts, and he got his start taking golf cart batteries and old golf carts and building electric vehicles in a dump, just tinkering, and then he became the chief technology officer of the probably the most transformative automotive company in U.S. history.
And he gets almost none of the credit.
And he probably doesn't want it.
I got to meet him. It was really nice. So yeah, he's a very, very introverted person, but the brains literally behind the whole operation.
And so I think that we need that. I think as a country, we need that, and so we'll have, when you talk to the exhibitors, we'll have technical and community colleges from all over the country promoting their programs. And nonprofits are a big part of it. So Ice Age Trail Alliance, Wisconsin Farmers Union. We'll have a whole range of people that are advocating in this space, in the sustainability space. So being more intentional with the way that we make local investments.
Yeah, and I want to stress again that this is a perfect event for residential homeowners or even renters, because the information that you can get here will save you money directly.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that from the city standpoint, we've created a bunch of programs that will help you do that too. Something as simple as creating a rain barrel watering system.
Yep.
You create a rain barrel on your residence in the city of Stevens Point, we give you a credit for your
Oh,
stormwater.
yeah, I didn't know
A
that.
rain barrel or rain garden. Right, but there's a lot of things people don't know. Solar, we talked about the SolSmart program and working with MREA and SolSmart, we have now streamlined. You want to put solar up on your property?
Yep.
We've got basically it's just a small checklist of things to do, making it
and we'll
super
have
easy.
local solar companies there, and they usually give preferred pricing at the fair too for people that show up, and so you can come and they'll set up their exhibit and they have all the example of local solar that they did and customer testimonials. So it is, beyond just the practical, I think what is important for people to realize is, and I think that I see this in my life and you probably do in yours, is like the world is changing faster than we can, the pace is incredible. And the energy market is changing really fast. And I think it's important just for people to connect with people like me and others that this is what we think about all day long. And that's what's on display at the fair is this conversation. We call it, people used to say, oh, it's like the Woodstock of energy. You go there and, that's not, it's much more
like a hippie
formalized
fest
anymore. But we call it an edutainment event. It's like we make it so that it's very family friendly. We're very approachable. There's something for everybody there. We'll have a children's area. I love this. We have David Stokes. He does like terrific turtles and fabulous frogs, and he'll bring like hundreds of reptiles, and they're like kids will be carrying them around. And so it's very approachable, super fun, and it's right outside of town. So I think it's a must for people.
There's really a lot of things to do. I would encourage anybody to at least experience it for a day. What's it going to cost me to take my family there?
Yeah, I think it's $20 or something a person for the day.
And what if I'm a member?
And if a member, it's free.
Yes,
so our
it is.
membership is $50.
Yep.
And then the whole weekend is free. And then we have member social, member dinner. So we treat our members real special. And then we provide discounts on stuff for members, and then sign you up for a newsletter. And then so we are, we're a nonprofit organization. We are lucky because we have a lot of services that we provide that create revenue, but membership helps us do the things that we want to do but aren't profitable. And so it really is a donation to us, but it gets you into the fair for free. And so we have, you'll be one of many. We have over 3,500 members. So, and growing because, energy is everything. And never, I think, in my life has energy ever been more of a present conversation and concern for people. And so I think that it's our time now. We have held this idea for 33 years. The first exhibitor at the Energy Fair selling solar was selling solar for $80 a watt. And so today, if you went to the fair for a larger installation, it'd be under $2 a watt. Yeah. So there's very few commodities in the U.S. that have fallen that dramatically in price and become so accessible. And like a solar energy system is modular, scalable, no moving parts, warranted for 25 years. Like, it is a transformative and disruptive electric vehicles. You're more likely to get an electric vehicle fixed at Best Buy than a mechanic. So we need to talk about this. What does this mean? And so I think those are the conversations that I think are really intriguing.
Well, and all of this will be available at the Energy Fair, or you can contact Midwest Renewable Energy Association.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We will put the link on the screen here for all of the events going on
Great.
at
Thank you.
Energy Fair. I would encourage, again, people to come out, but if you got questions, call first. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Nick, I want to thank you for being on the show and telling us a little bit about one of my coolest or favorite events during the summer here in central Wisconsin, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association's Energy Fair coming up third weekend in
Mike.
June.
Thank you.
And until next time, I'm Mayor Mike, and we have been Talking Point.
For more information about the Energy Fair, visit theenergyfair.org or visit the MREA at facebook.com/the MREA. Talking Point is produced by Mayor Mike Wiza and Stevens Point Community Media.